Hello, hello, hello. We're live with a squeaky chair and a wobble of the camera. I am here this week to talk to you about visibility and ways to be more seen. In fact, three things to consider when being more visible and more seen at work. So it could be in your career, it could be in your business, it could be when you're putting yourself out there. So my name's Jenny Kovacs. If you have just stumbled across my channel, know this, I am live. The time here in the UK, in London, is currently 1 minute past 2 now. It's 1 minute past 2 in the afternoon. But if you're watching this back on the replay, you're likely to be watching this back either on LinkedIn or on my YouTube channel. What I would really love you to do today is to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have been putting more and more information out on my YouTube channel, and it's becoming one of the most easily accessible places for anyone to access the information and the nuggets and things that I share there. So if you're at work and you're on a lunch break and you want a quick kind of moment of inspiration, please feel free to dive on in there. And the reason that I ask you to subscribe, by the way, is because we've got some really exciting things coming up for you soon, and you'll get notifications of those that you can choose to kind of dive into and go a little deeper, or not, as the case may be, but all at no charge to you at all. So thank you for those of you who have been subscribing to my channel, and those of you who have been sending in questions and asking me things and kind of joining these live. So at the time of recording this, we're on one of the last few days of August already. Can you believe it? Can I say it will soon be Christmas without people slapping me? Who knows? Anyway, let's crack on to today's topic. So today's topic are things to consider to be more seen, to be more visible. And when we are working in our career, sometimes we can be, in an environment where we've been there for so long, sometimes we become almost anesthetized to, what's working currently in our environment. So in short, why am I even sharing this with you? Well, in short, I'm nicknamed the Queen of Being Seen. My name, as you can see from the screen there, is Jenny Kovacs, and I'm really passionate about your visibility. So I tend to work with professionals, with businesses, and also with a lot of institutions / associations. So any of the professional bodies and people who have got members and they want to enhance their career development, their personal development, or even help them to raise their profile. I work very closely with them to provide content that actually helps people to continue their CPD, continued professional development. So your ability to be visible. So there's three things that I wanted to share today, because I see so many people struggle with this, and I hear people struggle with it. And the thing is, if you are trying to be visible in a certain sector or certain industry or to certain groups of people, and you are trying to figure it out as you go along, sometimes, just sometimes, you can inadvertently show yourself as not being credible in that area, not really kind of knowing which path you're crossing, and it can take you longer. It can be really frustrating, and it can make you feel like maybe you're not on the right career path or life path or purpose path, really, for those of you that feel like you are still trying to find your thing. So I wrote down just three things, and when I titled this, I thought I could probably run 10 live streams called Three Things to Consider, and just kind of go for the three things that I either currently see the most when I'm working more closely with people, or things that I've seen over time, or things that I've seen throughout the pandemic, or things that I've seen when people get frustrated. They're ambitious, but they're frustrated as to why nothing seems to be working. So if you are watching this live and would like to comment, by all means, do type a comment below. If you're here on YouTube, just because it makes it a lot easier for me to man the screens when there's just one kind of platform to focus on, it makes it easier for me to see your comments and and answer any questions and things like that. They show up at the bottom here, and I will be able to acknowledge them, because nobody really likes to be ignored, do they? So if you do have questions while I'm live here, feel free to type them in the screens. Some of you have been asking, well, Jenny, you do this stuff with different organisations and teams. How can I find out more about whether you can help us and what you can do for us? And if that's the case, just go over to my website. It's my name, jennykovacs.com, and you'll be able to schedule an appointment with me there. Or if you're already connected to me on LinkedIn, I will be back on the 1st of September, and by all means send me a private message there, and I will respond to you personally from there. So I'll send you the information to just arrange a call, a brief call. I'll ask you a few questions, find out what you need, and if I can help, then by all means I'll let you know how. Anyway, enough of that. So looking at the notes that I wrote for today's stream, really, there are three things at the very start to think about. When I say at the very start of being visible, I don't mean that maybe you have just come out of school, college, university, and it's your first ever thing. This will be totally applicable to you. But also, I'm thinking of those of you who have maybe been in your role for a while, and you're starting to get itchy feet. Maybe there's something that you want to do more within, your organisation, but it feels like a bit of a change for you, but maybe it feels like a big change for the organisation. You're not sure how to have the conversations about it. You're not sure who best to speak to. You're quite assertive. I always say, the people I come across are really smart and savvy. However, there comes a point where it can feel really frustrating to speak to those people that you are working with and say, this is what I really want to do, and just feel like your words are falling flat. And then for some of you, maybe you've been working in a specific industry and you've decided it's time for a change of industry. So you're looking at, going cross industries, and you're wondering, well, how on earth can I do that? Do I have to start from the beginning again? Are my skills actually transferable? Will people value it? So it might be that. And for a smaller set of you, you are at a different phase of your career journey. You're thinking, what's next for me? I'm really pleased with the career I've had. Maybe you want to give back a little bit more. You want to start helping others. Maybe you're looking down the NED route. Maybe you're looking at I might start my own consultancy route in my retirement route, or you might be thinking, well, I've done everything I've wanted to do. I've got to where I want to get to, but now it's time to do something different. And the reason I love speaking to people like you is because often it's the hardest thing to be able to transfer your skills and take them somewhere else when you've, quite frankly, been around the block. You know how it all goes. You've made lots of contacts throughout your years. And sometimes the focus isn't necessarily on your career, but it might be of those of your children, and in some cases, grandchildren. So you're looking for career guidance for grown-ups. That's what you're looking for, not the patronizing, do you know what you want to do? Have you thought about it? But you're looking for some good, solid conversations that can steer you in the right direction, or right directions, as many of you go. So here are some things to think about. So the first thing is, I'm a strong believer in creating connections. Honestly, it's the real reason, the truthful reason, that when somebody sends me a message on LinkedIn who I haven't yet connected with and starts kind of like being pushy, being forceful, being in my face, it's the reason that it irks me. That's my problem and not yours. But the reason it irks me is that we haven't got a connection yet. I was just reading a statistic, something like 611 million emails sent globally a day. I really hope that one of those emails isn't one that irks somebody or annoys somebody or has them just want to hide under their desk. So I'm a real fan of connections, and I know that there's also a kind of a space in kind of like the sales terminology, I guess, for cold calling, either on the telephone or cold emailing as well. And I completely understand that. In fact, I've got a sales background where I've trained salespeople, sales teams as well for well over 2 decades. So I understand that element of this. But I'm talking about when we are looking to be seen or we are looking to be even more visible. There are steps that we can take as individuals, because you've got to remember that it's nice and egoic to say, well, I work for this company. Everybody should want everything that I've got and everything that I have and everything that I can offer, but nobody should have anything. Nobody should have anything. So, it's really, really important to be able to recognize that whenever you are almost pivoting, I guess, or whenever you are looking at something new, even within the job that you already do, it's always good to have what's referred to as a beginner's mind, a starting from scratch mentality, because it helps you to cover all bases. Remembering that you can grow from zero to wherever you're setting your sights on. And if you're looking at the kind of the vision of doing that, do check out last week's live stream where I talked about visibility and vision, and shared some ideas about and some insights really about how you can look at creating your own vision to be even more visible. So when you are starting and you have this beginner's mind, it's really healthy, refreshing, and very self-aware for you to have a look at, well, imagine that it's groundhog life and I'm starting all over again from this moment, and I'm looking to grow, I'm looking to be more visible. This allows you to have a different point of view, a different aspect, a different element, and a way that you can almost see things differently. My free gift is the Opportunity Optimizer, and it helps you quite literally to optimize your opportunities when you can start from this almost like blank state. Now, we're not negating anything that you've done before. We're not negating your areas of expertise. We're not negating the years of hard work, the decades of, blood, sweat, and tears that you've poured into your career. All we're doing is having a look at growing and putting ourselves in the most fertile soil. It's a bit like trying to plant a new plant in amongst kind of old ground with lots of other plants and weeds, and not giving it the space to grow. Regardless of where you are in your career path, on your visibility journey, it's really important to acknowledge that there's a season of growth. And in order to do that, literally becoming self-aware, having a beginner's mind, allows you to see a lot more of your opportunities, a lot more of your potential than you might have, or might not have looked at before. So when you're looking at this, the key here is growth. You are growing. Regardless of how long you've been doing the thing, how long you've wanted to do the thing, what you've done before, you are growing. So really, really important to think of that. So the first thing to consider is your plan for growth. Have a starting place and have a place that you are aiming towards or looking to. You might say, well, I'm looking to do X. Don't just stop at X. Look at, well, what would happen a week, a month, a year after I reach this particular piece? What is different for me? What changes for me? What can I learn? How can I grow? So do look at that kind of thing as well. Okay. So the second thing, and I was talking to somebody about this, repetition. I have always said that consistency, when it comes to being visible, consistency is the name of the game. And so many people talk about consistency because it really and truly is important. But one of the things that happens is over time, when you hear a certain phrase or certain words, sometimes we can start to tune them out and forget what it actually means. So something else, thing number 2 to consider when you're looking to being more visible and being more seen is consistency. And I'm going to warn you, it's not always sexy, it's not always fun. Consistency means that you are allowing yourself the repetition that's required to do the thing. Think of it this way. Who has ever got up and said, I had a shower this morning, so I never ever need to have a shower again? Tick, it's done. Who's ever tried to go to the gym and say, well, I went to the gym once in 1984, so, I don't need to go again? Done. I know this happens a lot between the 1st and the 17th of January, but that's another story for another time. Why those dates? Because it's quite often when people's New Year resolutions, they fall off the wagon and move on. I'm currently training, although not as well as I would like to, for the London Marathon, which is in October, the beginning of October. As I've discovered firsthand, training and then having a big gap and not training for a long time doesn't build the necessary mindset, muscles, breathing, or anything else, stamina that I'll need to run a marathon, because consistency is key. Repetition is important. Going over and over and over again is important. And for some reason, the most smart, the most savvy professionals, they do the thing, they be the thing, they are the thing. And somewhere along the line, they get it into their head, I've done that now, I don't need to do that anymore. And it's interesting, as I say that, Michelle pops up and says such a good point. Here's the thing about repetition. Now, I know, because if you saw the cover for this stream, you'll see a lovely photo that was actually taken by Michelle. She's a business brand photographer. Can you imagine if I had a photo taken in my 20s and said, okay, I've had my photo taken now, I'm good, thanks? It doesn't work like that. In order to keep growing, we need to implement our form of consistency. And some of us are better at it than others. Some of us are quite good at going. Some of us could do with a coach. I definitely, this time around, should have engaged with a running coach. And last time I ran the marathon, I did. I didn't fall off the wagon nearly half as much. So having somebody that has our back and is able to help us to implement and help to keep us accountable, because at the end of the day, it's always us that needs to be held accountable. We need to hold ourselves accountable. But some of us know that we'll do it quite well by ourselves, thank you very much, and go on and do it. Some of us will kind of like maybe bump up against imposter syndrome, self-doubt, life throwing life at us, and that might be enough to pause us and sometimes to stop us, or definitely to slow us down. So repetition, consistency, team together with knowing yourself. And I said in the point before, being self-aware, being really self-aware. And when we're self-aware, we know our own kind of edges, we know our own corners, we know whether we're likely to repeat and do that by ourselves, or whether the repetition will stop when something else happens. And I see a lot of professionals, they're at work, they're busy, they're there to do a job, they're there to help with strategy, they help to drive things forward, whether it's an agenda or whether it's something else within the business. And then they get busy and it's all eyes on this particular project, and everything else goes amiss. So some of the best people I know that have really nailed this, when you're self-aware, they do something for themselves that help with that consistency. So, spoiler alert, that consistency might be boring. It might feel boring. I do all of the business development within my business until such time that I let go of the control and maybe train somebody up to do that for me. But one of the things that I know for the people I meet, they like the ideas that I share. So I want that to be their first point of contact. But that, repetition of even the business development, phone calls, emails, networking, it can become or can feel like it can be monotonous, that we keep going, we keep going. But if we don't keep going, we don't give it long enough to see the results. So when you're looking to be even more visible, because I believe that most of us are visible to a point, some of us might be visible in a way that we actually don't want to be. But when we become even more visible, when we start to, complete this repetition muscle, if you like, and build this repetition muscle, keep the consistency muscle going, doing all of those things, we can feel a bit like, oh my gosh, is this going to work, before we see the results come in, or we see the results come in and we run off, do the thing we want to do, and then kind of have to start again and think, oh, I did this before, don't want to do this again. It's a really, really important piece of being visible. So even if it feels boring, even if it feels like too much repetition, go for it. So for me, it seems that life gets in the way, have great intentions and not such great results though. So this is interesting to me. I'm going to geek out a bit here. This is a really great comment. Believe it or not, this shows that you're on track. And I tell you why. Because in a world where sometimes we can be driven by the success of others or what we see other people do. So I'm looking, because I know my window cleaner will arrive at any moment, bang on the window. But when we're looking at, a world that, generally speaking, and I'm not making this right or wrong, but a world that generally speaking, thinks or puts our markers on the success and the results. Sometimes if we're not achieving those, it can make us feel less than. What I have seen a lot, and I see this more so in the entrepreneurial community, because we're all so passionate. Like if you've got a business or you've got a consultancy, they're like our babies. We're so passionate about the thing working that we will keep pushing and striving. So the reason I love your comment is because I have worked with people where I feel like the bad fairy, where the first thing I've had to say is, well, if this isn't working, why do it? The problematic piece is when you don't recognize that it's not working and almost you kind of very blindly push forward and just hope for the best, pray and spray, or finger in the air and hope that something lands. It's the same thing for business owners who solely rely on word of mouth. Solely relying on word of mouth, it's great that people are endorsing you, but solely relying on that as a business model can have you ride the entrepreneurial roller coaster. So point one, I speak to anyone listening to this because this is such a great point. If you notice something's not working, if you're anything like me, you might take a moment to lick your wounds. But do kind of, sit back and acknowledge that you've acknowledged that. Because once you say, well, maybe the results aren't how I want them to be, or maybe it's not having me achieve the thing that I want to achieve, you get to have a diagnostic. Now, if you've been doing this for yourself, that can sometimes work. You can ask yourself, or like, what will I do differently next time type of question. But sometimes, a bit like going to a doctor, the diagnostic happens when they say, well, you say that it's not working. Like, tell me a bit about this. Ask me a bit about that. In fact, this morning I realized that some of the calls that I'm booking where I get to speak to people, I want to know about them. I have a very collaborative approach with my organizations, very collaborative approach. I work in partnership with them. I don't just come in, sell the thing and move out. It doesn't work for me. And quite often it just feels cold, doesn't work for them. So because of it, right up front, I'll ask very specific questions. What that helps me to do is it helps me to seek to understand, and B, it helps me to identify any diagnostics that, any things that can be done differently. Often there are some quick wins, quick fixes, and also, like, I seem to be using a plant analogy. Do you think it's because of the sunflowers behind me? But if, like you're planting something, you can't expect to plant a seed and for it to spring up in 10 minutes time just because you need it to. So sometimes there are some quick wins, like we'll take the weeds out, water the soil so it's nice and moist. And other times it's a longer piece. So, well, we're going to cultivate that seed, give it the darkness that it needs, let it have the light that it needs, and eventually it will grow, move it around, put it in the heat, take it out of the frost. Those are the diagnostics. So I don't want anyone to think that if they're not getting what they need, things are going wrong. And if you are, by all means, schedule a call with me. Reach out to me, and I'll send you the link. I'll ask you a few questions to get you to think about that. And if there's something that I can help even after that call, then I'll let you know about it. But even by asking those questions and having somebody else's eyes and ears on the thing that's going wrong is often enough to kind of like loosen whatever's going on and help you to move forward. So an extra thing, but a really important piece. Don't worry if the results aren't great. Worry if you're not doing anything about it, if you're not speaking to somebody about it, if you're not kind of digging deeper to find out, well, what causes that, and not looking to diagnose, well, what's the root cause of that. The thing that I will say is, for many, many business owners, they're so passionate about the thing they do, and they're so excellent at the thing that they do, that usually it's a piece around marketing and sales, because I always talk about visibility being the glue between sales and marketing. I've got a background in sales, as I said at the beginning of the call. I do a lot of marketing, and I'm a visibility specialist. The visibility piece is my thing. So if I see some pieces missing from either the sales or the marketing side of it, we can scoop it all up, bring it together, and put it into a strategy where you can then kind of, move forward and work on it and make changes. Okay, so as long as you notice, then it gives you the power and the ability to do something about it. So if that's you, reach out and let's schedule a call while there's still time in the calendar, because where has the year gone and where has time gone? Okay, so the third thing, and these are in no particular order, they're as they came to me, like, what's the 3 most important things to consider? It's the decision to do something. Everything we do starts with a decision. Me getting out of the door and running started with a decision. Here's my window cleaner now. Me getting out of the door and running started with a decision for me to go and train and run. Me sitting and thinking, oh, I'm just going to eat ice cream instead and watch Netflix, started with a decision for me to do that. And I know that there can be a lot of blame or shame put on the person deciding to do or not to do the thing. And that's not really the question to ask. So if you're saying, oh, what am I doing wrong? Or why am I doing this? I'm doing the wrong thing. Ask a different question. Ask a question that better serves you. Instead, ask your reasons for doing things. And this can show up in 2 ways. Sometimes our reasons to do things are motivated by something that we see that's a bigger picture, a bigger vision. Sometimes our reasons to do things are actually the excuses that we use. Take me and the marathon, for example. Me saying, oh, but I don't want to go outside. It's snowing. It's going to be cold. Like, in that moment might feel like a good decision to me. However, I have decided not to do that, and I've made that my reason not to run. What about if you were going out and running so regularly, Jenny, that even if it was snowing, you would still want to go out there? You know that it gets cold, so you would wear your hat, you would cover your ears, you would put a scarf or something around your neck. You would make sure you have enough layers on so that you're still warm while you're running and, not overheating. So the reasons that we sometimes don't want to do something are the reasons we should. Let me give you an example. When it comes to work, career, business. Sometimes people say, oh, well, I can't because of my kids. If you think about that, it's on the surface, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Oh, but I want to spend time with my kids. Definitely. Warning, kids should never be left alone playing with matches or anything else dangerous in the house, especially when they're young. I'm not saying throw that, caution to the wind. But what I am saying is, if when the kids are in bed, you spend just half an hour because you've decided to do the thing, that's a mindset shift. That's a belief change about what you can or can't do. When you do that, when they're awake, even though they might be driving you up the wall, they can still see that you're doing something that is actually influential to them and life-changing to them. They'll look back at that time and they'll know something's different. What they won't see is a parent who are using them as an excuse to not do the thing, live the life they want, have the career they want, or anything else. I hope that even makes sense as it comes out of my mouth. So the third point is decide to do. So let me just recap. First point is start with the beginner's mind and literally look as if today's the first day and I'm growing. So look at your growth and how you can grow. And if you're watching this live and you missed the beginning, it will be on the replay. You'll be able to watch it in peace on YouTube, or if you want to and prefer to look at it on LinkedIn, you can as well. So the first piece is about growth. The second piece is about repetition and consistency and the importance of doing that, like having a shower or a bath, like going to the gym, like training for a marathon. Consistency and repetition is key. We don't just do it once and say, oh, that's it. And then the third piece is the decision to do. Everything starts with a decision. And quite often the reason we don't decide is we think there's a reason why, which is normally an excuse. And sometimes it's a mindset shift. And it's really hard to see something differently if you've seen it the same way all along and no one's got a different perspective in there. So that's the reason why people like me exist, why coaches, why mentors exist, because we have had those experiences. We do see things differently. And personally, from my heart to yours, as a visibility specialist, the saddest thing I see is people have got this potential and they can't see it. So they deny it for themselves and they don't do anything about it. They make the decision, well, I'm not going to do anything. And then when they don't do anything, they get more of like not having the thing that they want to happen. They write themselves off, they dismiss themselves. And I literally cannot stand seeing that, whether it's within an organization, whether it's within your team, or whether it's within an individual. So it's literally like, that's my purpose. That's the reason I think I struck on the planet. So decide to do it. Always decide to do. But know what you're deciding, and speak to someone who knows, somebody who's able to pull that information out of you, so that you can make the best decision for you. Don't do it because somebody tells you that you should do it. Okay. If you are looking at optimizing the opportunities in your career, on the 9th of September, I'm so excited. There's going to be 3 speakers, myself included, and we're going to be sharing throughout the day different ways for you to optimize your current career. So we're not talking about looking to be headhunted. We're not talking about CVs. We're not talking about looking to do something completely different. We're talking about optimizing your current careers, whether you're new into the industry or whether you've been doing it for a long time. I'm so excited. So do keep looking. And if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, so there's no kind of sign up with a gazillion emails that I'll send you, 4 times a day. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel, when the segments come up, you'll be able to have a look. You'll be able to watch them back for a limited time if you can't make the Friday. They'll be up for 72 hours basically for you to catch, and then they'll go away for good because they are valuable segments. We'll be talking about all sorts of things like connecting on LinkedIn, creating your network. We'll be talking about dealing with burnout. We'll be talking about imposter syndrome. We'll be talking about choices that you can make, people to be in front of, and just ways to really optimize what you're doing. I really do believe in you, and I believe that you can. Reach out if you need to, and I look forward to speaking to you soon and seeing you soon. Do remember as well, if you know of somebody else who might need to hear just some of the stuff that I've shared today, please do send it on to them. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.